I grew up in Jerusalem, not far from here, in a small family of 4. I'm a daddy's girl. I love my father. He's one of the kindest people I've ever met. My father worked hard his entire life, and he taught me the same thing that most of us are being taught, that good, responsible people work hard and work a lot. I was living under the assumption that if I want to be successful, I should do something in every given moment. There was always something to clean, a problem to solve, an email to answer, or a phone call to make. I had a never-ending list of tasks and gave myself no permission to rest until it was completed. I believed, like many others, that success is necessarily involved with a lot of work. But is working hard and a lot is really the effective way to create exceptional results? According to the 80-20 Pareto principle, the answer is no. If you look at the distribution of peas within pods, ownership of capital, and incomes in businesses, you will always see that about 80% of the effect comes out of 20% of the causes, and the 20% of the effect comes out of 80% of the causes. What does it mean? How does it concern us? In every given moment, every one of us is on one side of that ratio. Either you're doing a lot and getting very little, or you're doing little and getting a lot. Ever since I've heard about the Pareto principle, I've been looking for ways to do less and achieve more. And then, about a year ago, I got the opportunity to practice under my very special circumstances, which took most of my time and energy. I became paralyzed. I had no physical abilities to invest, only my mind, my will, my intention. I became ill with an autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. Although it sounds like a name of a French lover, Guillain-Barré is a severe neurological disease which causes sensory and motoric paralysis. If it is not diagnosed or treated on time, it might cause death. The body attacks the myelin, the substance which covers all of the nerves in our body, and is responsible for the neurological congestion, including physical sensation, movement, and function of the inner organs. At the time I got sick, I was preparing for half a marathon for the second time in a row and was excited in the preparation for the big day. But as John Lennon said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. It took a while for me and my doctors to understand this was no flu. For 2 weeks, I experienced a cold sensation in the tips of my fingers. I lost sensation in my arms and my legs. I became stiffer and experienced extreme exhaustion. A 10-minute walk took me an hour and a half. Climbing up the stairs to my house, 20 minutes. My pace kept decelerating, and instead of running to the finish line, I found myself crawling to the hospital. A week and a half before Purim holiday, I was at the hospital before receiving treatment and was losing more and more of my basic capabilities. Purim is a Jewish version of Halloween. It's a commandment to be happy on Purim holiday, so everyone are celebrate and wearing costumes. When my daughter and my dear ex visit me at the hospital, I realized I won't be able to help her get dressed on Purim morning. I was told not to make any plans for the next month to come. I remember lying there at the hospital bed, thinking to myself I have no choice but to store all of my belongings, say goodbye to my former life, and go live at my mother's house for the next few months. I was being realistic and completely desperate. It was my darkest time. I'm not sure what was there beyond my desperation, but all of a sudden I thought, it's just a statistic, a distribution. It's a probability, like all probabilities, that has the average, which is the majority of people, but also has the extreme, the dots outside the graph. And I realized that even if the chances were slight, they still existed. I knew that most of the result depended on me. Who am I concerning the odds? What am I going to do to heal myself? I had a purpose right there. To be healthy as soon as possible and going back being my daughter's mother again. I've decided to put all of my intention in what I had rather in what I was losing. Back then, the difference between doing something with my intention or doing it without my intention was the difference between trying and succeeding. I knew that every day without movement will add significant time to my rehabilitation, so I didn't wait a second before I took responsibility in my health. And long before the physical therapy began, I combined between keep resting and moving. I got myself healthy food, vitamins, and a variety of physical treatment from friends who wanted to help out. On the second day of my medical treatment, I was half paralyzed in a wheelchair when I crossed a stairway with 16 stairs and a rail. I remember quietly looking at them for a few moments and wondered if I can climb them. And there I was, sitting in the bottom of the stairway, taking a deep breath, imagining myself climbing up the stairs. It seemed impossible. Suddenly, I heard music in the back of my mind. And I started climbing up the stairs with the agility of a sloth. From the outside, I looked like a paralyzed woman, hardly pulling herself on a stairway. In my mind, however, I was Rocky Balboa during his victory match. With every step, I became happier. And as I reached the top of the stairway, a few minutes later, I felt victorious. A minute later, I was back in a wheelchair, exhausted, and needed my mom to push me back to the department. My life looked a lot like that in the past year, from being victorious to disabled and back again. When I returned home, bills were piling up, my income stopped, I had a child to raise and customers waiting for my return, and yet my body was full with pain as a result of the neurological revival. I had to do less and achieve so much more. Life didn't wait for me for a second. In many mornings, I was standing in a crossroad of choices between lying on the couch all day long and proceeding with my life. In order to leave the couch, I had to enroll my consciousness toward my day and choose, despite the circumstances, to be a contributing, useful person. Every morning, I asked myself, what is my purpose? What are my intentions? Who do I want to be today? The statistic shows that the average time for a Guillain-Barré patient is 38 days in department and anywhere between 3 weeks and 3 months in rehabilitation. I spent only 10 days in department and 5 days in rehabilitation. And guess what else happened? On Purim morning, I was home on vacation from the hospital and helped my girl with her costume. I have learned that what happens on my inside has a huge effect on my outside. From the inside, I was a winner, athlete, dreamer, consciousness coach, and I remember that my intention will determine whether I will be with the most of the other Guillain-Barré patients at the average, or will I be a dot away from the graph. From the outside, even though I was active only 7 months of it, 2014 was one of the best years of my life, personally and professionally. We are all living in such a fast pace, we are all connected in almost every moment to our emails and our cell phones, and we expected to react immediately and be available. We all have our circumstances to handle. And so many times we're taking actions in a hurry, sometimes out of our stress, our fear, our pain, or our anger. Then we can find ourselves doing a lot and getting very little. Or at the worst case, we can find ourselves making damage in which we have to take care of later. I'm still recovering from my disease and feel its impact in my daily life. It has taught me to stop and pay attention before I take actions. I have learned that it's not the amount of actions that will determine my result. It's the quality of action that matters. When I'm setting my intention, then I'm present in the moment, in my body. I become clear with my purpose. and I can recognize whether my action is valuable for me and for the people around me or not. And if it's not, then take no action is sometimes better. More than anything, my disease gave me a year of practice and a constant reminder that in every given moment, I can stop and through my will, my choice, and my intention, be on that side of the Pareto distribution in which I do less and get so much more. Which side would you like to be? Which side would you choose to be?